Today we're talking about what may well be the biggest mistake in Star Wars history. It's very easy to miss, but there's one quick obscure moment in Star Wars which inadvertently sets the stage for a ton of terrible events which follow it. When I say mistake here, I'm talking specifically about an unforced error, which is basically a mistake that comes from entirely your own actions, rather than being the result of outside forces influencing it. For example, we could say Anakin made a mistake doing what Palpatine said, but that was also the result of manipulation by Palpatine, so it wasn't really an unforced error. So as much as I hate to say it, this mistake comes entirely courtesy of smuggler extraordinaire Talen Karrde. Talen Karrde first made his name after taking over a major smuggling ring run by former Thrawn associate Jorge Cardass. Cardass basically disappeared overnight during the time of the original trilogy, and Karrde was left to pick up all the pieces. After Return of the Jedi, the galaxy was full of opportunities for underworld magnates like himself in the wake of Jabba's death as well. He eventually became an unlikely ally of the New Republic in taking down Grand Admiral Thrawn, and once peace was declared between the New Republic and the Empire, he took a more legitimate role as a neutral information broker and envoy between the two states. In particular, he became a close friend of the Jedi, whom he had a strong personal connection to, as his one-time protege Mara Jade was also a Jedi and the wife of Luke Skywalker. When a new enemy invaded the galaxy named the Yuuzhan Vong 25 years after Yavin, and began to single out the Jedi as their biggest threat, Karrde was one of the few friends the Jedi had left. Most of the galaxy had been led to believe that the Vong would stop their attack before penetrating the core if they turned over all the Jedi, and Luke's Academy on Yavin became a prime target for the invaders and their allies, a collaborationist organization known as the Peace Brigade. Luke trusted Talen Karrde with the important task of extracting the remaining students from the planet before they could reach it, though unfortunately for the Jedi, the Peace Brigade had arrived before either him or the Vong. This is where we start getting to Karrde's massive screw-up. When Karrde arrived, the Jedi trainees had managed to evade capture thanks to Han and Leia's son Anakin, and a half-Jedi Master, half-Furby named Ikrit creating a diversion. In order to rescue the hidden Jedi, Karrde told the Peace Brigade that he was there to help, and informed the Peace Brigade operatives on planet of two special tools he had for the job. One is a creature called Yuzhan, which prevents the use of the Force in a bubble around themselves, and that one he didn't actually have, he just had a cage with a blanket over it. And the second was a dog-like creature called a Vornskr, which was able to hunt using the Force, and which were particularly effective at seeking out Jedi. These he did actually have with him, since he had the only pair of tamed ones in the galaxy. Both of these creatures came from the planet Mercure, which was his former base of operations, so the capabilities of either of them were not commonly known. It was really just him and the Jedi that knew what they were truly capable of. Knowledge of the Yuzhan was slightly more widespread because of their prior use by Thrawn and his allies. However, the Vornskrs were a much bigger secret. Now, you can probably start to see why this was a huge mistake to tell the Peace Brigade about, and most importantly, there wasn't really a reason to do this. There were other ways to find the Jedi without giving the Peace Brigade that information, and Kam Salyusar, who was in charge of looking after the Jedi trainees on the planet, was already mad at Karrde just for working with them in the first place, and he didn't even know what Karrde told them about the Vornskr. While Karrde was ultimately successful in getting the Jedi trainees out of there, the Peace Brigade members who Karrde told about this super anti-Jedi hunting dog were still alive, and in the next book, Edge of Victory Rebirth, the Yuuzhan Vong discuss how the Peace Brigade members told them about the Vornskr in the middle of some casual debriefing torture sessions. Having access to regular Vornskr would be bad enough, but the Yuuzhan Vong technology was all biological. They'd basically make a new creature for any task they needed, and everything from their body armor to their spaceships were variations of these living animals, Flintstone style, if that's a thing anyone references anymore. The Yuuzhan Vong used this newfound information about the Vornskr and the Force, which they otherwise didn't really have any way to learn about since nobody in the galaxy really knew about it, and they themselves certainly didn't know about since they barely believed in the Force in the first place, and they asked Senator Vicky Shesh of Kuat, another collaborationist, to help procure some Vornskr for them. With her help, they were able to get 4 of them, and they put a massive world ship over the planet Mercure as a base of operations to begin their experiments. Using this new information, they were able to design a whole new Jedi hunting living weapon, the Voxen. These 4-meter-long terrors could spit acid, their claws infected victims with diseases, they weren't particularly cute, they could screech to stun enemies, they could withstand thermal detonator blasts, all on top of a highly tuned ability to hunt Jedi through the Force. The Vong started deploying them wherever they suspected Jedi involvement, and many of the already small number of Jedi across the galaxy were killed, including a centaur friend of the Solo children named Lusa, primarily known from a children's book series, The Young Jedi Knights, and her first mention since that children's series, so take that everyone's childhood, though she had been introduced in the book The Crystal Star, which is arguably a bigger tragedy than anything else we're talking about today. This is all bad enough, and it all goes back to Karrde, the information broker, having loose lips, which is ironic in itself, but the impacts of this stretch out to the rest of the Star Wars Legends timeline, causing pretty much every one of the next several bad things. The Voxen were such a threat that the Jedi organized a strike team of many of the Order's most promising Jedi students, including Jaina, Jacen and Anakin Solo, Ganna Rysode, Talen Karrde of Hapes, Lobaka, Raynar Thul, Alemarar, whose sister had been killed by the Voxen already, Ulaha Kor, Krasov and Bella Hera, Tessar Sabatine, Tahiri Vela, Zek, Jovan Drark, and Errol Besa. They were able to destroy the Voxen with the help of 2 Dark Jedi whom the Vong had been experimenting on, named Lomi, Plo, and Welk, but at a huge cost. Anakin Solo, Errol Besa, Ulaha Kor, the Hera sisters, and Jovan Drark were killed on the mission itself. But even for the survivors, that wasn't the end of their problems. In the short term, Jaina Solo went a little dark side, but she got better. There were 2 other main impacts though, and these are the biggest impacts on the galaxy. The first was the capture of Raynar Thul by the Dark Jedi Plo and Welk. They stole and escaped on a freighter that the rest of the team had planned to use to escape, removing any possibility of saving Anakin's life. And maybe some of the other red shirts would have lived as well, but they're not as important here. This ship, the Tachyon Flyer, crashed after escaping, stranding Raynar, Lomi Plo, and Welk with a species of insects called the Killiks, who were able to draw outsiders into their hive mind. When this happened with these 3 Jedi, they formed the Dark Nest, and went from a local occasional pest to a galactic force to be reckoned with, engaging the Chiss in a war of expansion that could have overtaken the entire galaxy. Many of the survivors from the Mercure strike team were involved in this war as well, and it had even bigger impacts on them. Secondly, Jacen Solo was captured on the mission by a former Jedi named Vergir, who had lived among the Yuuzhan Vong for decades. Jacen was held as a captive by the Yuuzhan Vong, and the torture he endured there, on top of his past experience, the horrors of the Dark Nest crisis which would come up later, and some of Vergir's teaching, all contributed to him becoming the next Sith Lord Darth Caedus. In this role, he nearly brought the galaxy back to the authoritarianism they remembered under Palpatine. It also resulted in another surge of anti-Jedi sentiment, leading to Natasi Dalla becoming the next chief of state, and sending Luke Skywalker into exile, trying to figure out what had gone wrong with Jacen. Jacen had similarly used the memory of his brother Anakin, as well as the Mercure assault in general, to lure another of the Mercure survivors, Tahiri Vela, into being his apprentice on the dark side. Tahiri had been in love with Anakin and had a rough life in general aside from that. On top of all this, Jacen also killed many others, including his aunt Mara Jade, so good job on that one, Karrde. Whether it was Vergir's intent that Jacen go to the dark side is an entirely different, highly controversial topic, so we'll leave that out of here for now. These events covered in the Dark Nest trilogy and Legacy of the Force are similar further catalysts for the events of Fate of the Jedi series, which I mentioned a little bit with the stuff about Dalla, but it's been a long time since I've read Fate of the Jedi, so I don't feel too confident getting into too many specifics on that one. But basically, this one slip of the tongue from Karrde set up the next few years of galaxy-wide conflicts, and while the Vong War was brutal in general, so there's no guarantee that things would have gone smoothly otherwise anyways, the creation of the Voxen and the mission to Mercure had a ton of far-reaching impacts on the galaxy at large and the specific characters involved. So I think it's hard to point to any other specific mistake that has such a big impact. Maybe even any other event at all where the scale of the impact is so disproportionate to what the event itself was. This was really just one bit of information. That's going to do it for today's video though. Let me know what you think in the comments. Did Karrde really mess up here, or am I giving him too much flack for this? Is there another mistake you'd point to as outshining it? Also, if there's anything else you'd like to see me cover on the channel, let me know in the comments as well. As always, thank you for watching, leave a like and subscribe if you've enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time.